Now let's move on. After everybody, you know the importance of lab testing. Let's talk about the harvest, and we're almost there. The harvest, drying, and processing is coming up. But on the harvest piece, let's talk about plant maturity. How do you know when your plant is ready to harvest, and what is the time frame from letting the state know that you're ready to go, and then harvesting after the state sends you your harvest certificate?
The way we do ours ready to harvest is by third-party testing, but before that, the people that grew our plants, they've grown before, so they kind of knew the timeline of how long they would grow and stuff. So we use that, and just look at the plants, you can tell. We went to let the state know when we was ready. We went by what the plant grower said, but then when we knew that they was ready, you could tell by the way the plant looks. It starts to turn that reddish purple. And looks mature and it smells mature.
So with our genetics, we ended up using some recommendations from these guys when to harvest, and we used their testing, and STK Labs and Notch, we used their testing. And when we got to 0.25 is when we pulled the trigger and started harvesting after we got our certificate back in the state. That's when we started. It was a long, labor-intensive process. We used hedge clippers. We clipped the plants off, carried them to a hay wagon, and hand shucked it, or 8 acres. For next year, our plan is to use an old binder, and we're going to pull that, and we're going to set. It's got a sickle, and it'll move it up the conveyor, and that'll take the hedge clipper side out of it, and we'll be able to conveyor it onto a hay wagon, and then we'll take it and hand shut it from there.
Yeah, we completely underestimated our harvest, and that is a huge point. It's a way bigger task than you think it's going to be. If you think it's going to be a week-long process over 36 acres, plant maturity, though, for us, a lot of it was just off of our visuals, but we did do regular testing again in K-State prior to getting the state to come out. In that case, they could test us, make sure that we were where we wanted to be before we went ahead and had that testing done. Because once you do that, we've got about 10 days once you get the results to get done. So we want to make sure that we're ready, and then we're not really pushing the maturity of our plants before they're ready. Other thing that we did was we made sure to look at the seed date. There's a date on your seed. You get good certified seed from a reputable dealer. It's going to have a seed date. And generally, within the last 2 to 3 weeks of that seed date is when the majority of your content is really going to start to show up in advance of your plants. So you want to make sure that you're at least attempting to reach that seed date. If the test results are lacking.
Braden, how long was the lead time, Braden, on average, if people contacted, said, we're ready for you to test, come now, and what was your, can you just shout it out?
Yeah, so the pre-harvest and harvest requirements in regulation are so that individuals that will be harvesting have to supply an anticipated harvest date with the Department of Agriculture no less than 30 days in advance, so we can have a harvest scheduled appropriately, and then no later than 5 days after the harvest is completed, they have to remit a harvest report. I was looking at some preliminary data, and in regards to that pre-harvest requirement, I believe roughly like 60% of all submitted pre-harvest requests or reports were made after the fact. The biggest issue that we have in regards to that 15-day harvest requirement that the USDA has supplied is that individuals, producers, being able to meet their anticipated harvest date. Because when we look at the data, only 38% of those anticipated harvest dates were able to be met by our producers. So, with hemp, there's a lot of uncertainty in regards to, how the crop is maturing and being able to harvest completely, to complete that harvest. Because we do have environmental factors that will hold that process up.
Just to reinforce, if you didn't hear, Braden, the new USDA rules are that they've released that a lot of us are complaining about. And I want to talk to you guys in a minute also about how you get input into the USDA. We have until the end of December to everybody to speak their mind. Every individual that wants to can get on the website, and we'll give you instructions on that. But the time that they allow us, 15 days, you have to get your you get your test taken, and from the day that you take the test. Now, what the KDA did this year, Braden, was it was really when you got your results back, you have 10 days, right?
Yeah, so the requirement is, so there's an inspection that occurs, there's a sample that is collected. The turnover time from when the sample is collected and made to the laboratory averaged from same day to 4 days here with a 1 day average time. And then from collection to the dissemination of a report was from 0 to 11 days from sampling. So,
and then you had 10 days to harvest after receiving.
In Kansas, that's what the current requirement is. But the USDA has.
The new USDA rule is you call for the test, and from the time they sample, you have to start harvesting, I guess, right away, even before you hear the test back. Is that the plan?
Yeah, so.
Because you have 15 days from the time you take the sample until to get the harvest in.
That's correct. So it's, yeah, a logistical issue in regards to the collection, transportation, preparation, and quantitation of that sample, because the laboratory turnover time for samples, if it's done correctly, I mean, is anywhere from 3 to 4 days, because those samples have to be prepared and dried appropriately.
So if that rule stays, you'll be harvesting, and if you're hot, you would just spend all the money on harvest and you have to destroy it. So it's the theory they have at the USDA, is my understanding, is that they make it so quick that they don't think that the plant will get much hotter during the 15 days. And if you can't get it harvested, what you have to do is call for another test. So you get another 15 days, right, Braden? Can you call for a second test? You can't get it in 15 days. Call for a second test.
So yeah, if harvests aren't completed within the allowable time, essentially another request and sampling would be required in order to make sure that crop's compliant.
So we think the 15 days is onerous. Now for us, we hand harvested in the field. We did a different thing this year, but the year before and the year before that, we hand harvested in the field. It took 40 people in the field to harvest an acre a day. 40 field workers to hand harvest stripping plants in the field. That was a very labor-intensive process. We invented a machine that we used this year that helped shuck with conveyor systems, and we got it down to 20 people to be able to harvest an acre a day. But it is labor-intensive, and if you have 10 acres, then you got to figure out how to dry it. Is that in here?
Yeah, I just would like to reiterate, harvest is very labor-intensive. Do not underestimate this piece. It's the most important, and it is often underestimated, to say the least. A quick observation, when you're looking at your plants, how do you know when it's ready to harvest? Well, a visual sign, the plant grows these little white fingers around those flowers. When those white fingers turn a brownish, reddish color, and 80% of your field, your crop looks like that, they're ready to go. So if you haven't relied on lab testing, which you should, if you haven't looked at your seed dates, which you should, if you haven't taken all these other steps to really pinpoint your harvest date, you can look at your plant and you can notice visually when it's about time to go.
The other part is your trichomes get to be very visible and some crystalline work, and you can take a sight glass, like a jeweler's glass, and look, and they have actually a little milk and white kind of a drift through them, and when they get that milky look, that's really peak time. I don't think many of us will see that because the plant might be getting hot by then.
And real quickly on mechanization and equipment, try not to run a combine through this unless you have 50, 100, 150 acres and more. The more you can do by hand cutting and stripping, the better off you're leaving the plant, and the higher quality your end product, whatever that may be. Smokable flour for out of state, crude oil, distillate, it's all better when it's taken care of. So try not to mechanize and just save some time. Be out there in your field, cutting plants, do what you can by hand. And a quick side note, if you are new to the hemp industry, do not attempt more than 5 to 7 acres. Do not attempt more than 10 acres your first year. Get your feet wet, please. It's not what you expect. Get your feet wet, start small.